Okay, let's get to a couple of these Senate races. So some significant developments in Pennsylvania as John Fetterman continues to struggle to recover from his stroke with issues, I think with speech in particular, but also he says auditory issues. He has decided not to participate in a scheduled debate. Let's go ahead and put this up on the screen. This is from Jonathan Tamari, a reporter that we used to have on Rising all the time. I think
he's a great reporter.
Fantastic Pennsylvania local reporter. He says Fetterman confirms he won't attend KDK's proposed debate, accusing Oz of mocking his stroke. He says, quote, this is from Fetterman, as I recover from this stroke and improve my auditory processing and speech, I look forward to continuing to meet with the people of Pennsylvania. They'll always know where I stand. Oz team has taken the gloves off on this stuff and are being extremely, I'll just say, aggressive in how they are framing all of it. Let's go ahead and put this up on the screen. So I'll read this whole thing. The Dr. Oz campaign released the following list of concessions it's willing to make if John Fetterman will agree to debate in 1 week. Dr. Oz promises not to intentionally hurt John's feelings at any point, will allow John to have all of his notes in front of him along with an earpiece so he can have the answers given to him by his staff in real time. At any point, John Fetterman can raise his hand and say bathroom break. If the topic of his pardoned murderers comes up, we'll allow extra time for him to explain that second-degree murder is not as bad as first-degree murder. We'll pay for any additional medical personnel he might need to have on standby. And here's a quote. The first debate at KDKA is set for 1 week from today, but there's been no response from lying liberal Fetterman. I mean, if I had to defend releasing convicted murderers and not paying my taxes, I'd be pretty worried too. I guess John Fetterman is afraid of debating Dr. Oz. What did you think of this, Saagar?
Yeah, I don't know. It's odd. I have no idea if it'll work or not. I've spoken with some people who are privy to some polls that I'm not privy to, but you never know whether you're being spun or not. They claim that it is working, that internally they see some doubt amongst Pennsylvania voters about his stroke and that they want to remind people of it as much as possible. I could see it going of two ways. On the one hand, Fetterman cannot claim that you have problems. In his statement, he says, I have problems with auditory processing, but that will not affect my job as a senator. Come on, dude. That is just stop. Like, there is no chance that one of the most important jobs in the United States is not going to be affected by your health problems. Now, politically, as to whether that matters or not, it's two things. One, which is that with Biden, the attack on age sometimes worked, sometimes it backfired.
Yeah.
With Fetterman, here's the thing. I'm just going to say this kindly. People in Pennsylvania, especially the older folks, probably not the healthiest population. So they actually will find some kinship with John that he has suffered through a major health event. And he actually recently had a rally, a Democratic rally, and he was like, how many of you guys have suffered a health event? You know, the entire room basically raised their hand, which is sad. I'm not saying it's a good thing.
Yeah, this is America.
Right, listen, we have a terrible healthcare system. That's my entire monologue is about today, about life expectancy, specifically amongst older people, fat people, etc. So everybody was like, I would. And he was like, can you imagine a doctor attacking you over your health? And everyone's like, oh, boo. Now these are people at a Fetterman rally. You would want to believe that type of politics works. My bigger problem with all this is this seems generally indistinguishable to me from generic Republican positioning nationally.
Yes.
And that's not why I believe Dr. Oz would be a good candidate in the first place. And I took a look to see who wrote that statement. And lo and behold, Brittany Yannick, who's the current communications director for Dr. Oz, what was her previous job, Krystal? She worked at the Republican National Committee 9 months ago as a comms director for this is a pure through and through GOP standard politician. She worked at the RNC. Before that, she was deputy director of communications for the White House under the Trump administration. And before that, she was just some generic replacement level comms director on Capitol Hill in the House of Representatives. So I know these people. They don't have an original brain in their heads. The lying liberal thing and all of that very much just tracks with generic GOP positioning. If I were Oz, and again, why I thought he would be very effective, is Oz was somebody who had a deep emotional connection with people on TV that was born of a positive message. And now, people do vote negatively, but there's a way to be positive about the negatives, about bringing ourselves out of something terrible and casting Fetterman as a part of that horrificness. So how it lands, I don't know. I generally have no idea.
Yeah, I tend to agree with you. And putting the morality of attacking someone who's just suffered this horrific health event, I mean, look, it's politics. People are going to use whatever they can use to try to,
well, I think it's fair game. If the guy can't hear properly, that's a problem.
Yeah, I mean, that's fine. Make that case. But, if just from a political perspective, I think they are going about this in a very ham-handed way that just feels mean-spirited and makes John a more sympathetic character, then there's a way to do these, and it's not having it come directly from the candidate.
It's probably more
from the
innuendo
campaign.
and super
right. So
PAC
like,
stuff, right.
okay, so again, putting my like sleazy political operative hat on, the way you do, you leak stuff to the press, you get your allies, you get your attack dogs who are outside of the campaign, so you have plausible deniability. And if you're Dr. Oz, you wear your like, Mr. Rogers, America's doctor, gosh, I'm just concerned for his health, you know, bless his heart.
Right.
That's the way that's who you are. That's the character you're supposed to be playing. I personally think because the attacks feel so sort of like edge, like they have a hard edge and they're sort of like mean-spirited in their approach, it more plays into this idea that Dr. Oz is just kind of this like rich out of touch asshole.
Yes.
Versus the impression that, you know, a lot of TV viewers over a lot of years had of him. So it feeds more into that narrative the Fetterman campaign has been pushing about who this guy is and what he's all about versus really, you know, causing questions for voters about Fetterman's health. That's my read on the situation, that it's not that I don't think the health issues could find some purchase and traction if done in the right way. It's got to be done a little bit delicately, though, and they have not done it delicately at all. And you see that this is actually uncomfortable for Oz himself. He got asked on a local radio interview whether it's appropriate for his campaign to make fun of Fetterman's stroke. And he said, the campaign's been saying lots of things. My position is I can only speak to what I'm saying.
That's your campaign.
Bro, it's your freaking campaign.
Yeah,
Come on, like own up to it
Right.
or
own it.
or go in a different direction. Like, again, the way you do this effectively is you leak stuff to the press, you know, get clips of him that look really bad and you send them to people who are your allies, you get them spread around, you get the Fox News machine working so that you have plausible deniability and you can remain above the fray. It's not a good look to look like you're just like being mean about somebody who's clearly struggled through a significant health event. I'm also a little bit skeptical about how much these health attacks really work because ultimately people care more about like, how do I feel about this person? What's their ideology? Then, I mean, the Biden age questions didn't hurt him. John McCain, there were, I guess, you know, McCain.
Well, I think that did hurt.
Do you think so?
I mean,
I don't think that was.
It was such a terrible
I don't think that was
election
the
for
problem
him.
for him. I
there
think
were
Sarah
lots going
Palin
on
was
there.
more of the issue for him. So I don't know. I'm a little skeptical of. Think of Bernie Sanders.
Yeah.
Heart attack, and then he comes back, and he was never stronger than
Bernie
in
can
the
speak.
primary.
And I think we should be honest here. Like Fetterman, listen, there are a lot of clips out there, and it's not looking so good. I mean, if the guy can't debate because he literally can't speak, like that's a big.
Well, let me say this, and go ahead and put this
Yeah.
next poll up on the screen from Emerson. So Emerson has Fetterman up 4 over Oz, 5% undecided, much closer poll than some of the other ones we've been seeing recently. I think this is much closer to where this race actually is versus, you know, we saw these polls that we were pretty skeptical of that were like Fetterman up 13.
Yeah, I was like, no.
It's Pennsylvania. I just don't buy that. It's going to be a close election. And in my opinion, if Oz is able to make a comeback here, which is very possible, this is still, in my view, a toss-up state, I think it's going to be more about national mood, inflation, gas prices, feeling like the country's on the wrong track than, you know, these attempts, which to me feel a little bit desperate about Fetterman's health.
I don't know. I have no idea. As for Fetterman, I think it probably has less to do with Oz and can the man speak by the end of the campaign. I mean, for real. Like, honestly, if I were him, I may take a little bit more of a health break and just try and be as good as possible. Most people don't pay attention really until 3 weeks before Election Day. So he's got a little bit of time. Apparently he's going to the Hamptons this weekend to go raise some money. Good for him. You know, he's getting himself out there. He did not appear or will not be appearing with Joe Biden. Scheduling conflicts. He says, I always love that. I'm just like, come on, he's unpopular. Just say you don't want to appear next to him. So that's but Josh Shapiro is, which I also find kind of interesting.
Yeah.
I don't really know why he would choose to do so, but Fetterman wouldn't. Maybe he has a different poll. I have no idea how it's going.
Yeah, who knows?
So it's interesting. Nonetheless, yeah, I don't know. Personally, I mean, I wouldn't do it. I think it's a very risky strategy. Could it be effective? The people who are claim they're in the know, say it is. They could be spinning me. I have no idea.
Again,
So,
I think there's a way it could be done
Right.
that might be more effective. This, I feel like they're just making him into a more sympathetic figure. And as much as I would like the, they won't debate me attacks, I would like it if those attacks worked.
Oh,
I think those attacks should work. I think we should have a requirement constitutionally that candidates have to debate and have to take questions from the press, and so that they really have to sort of prove themselves and put themselves out there. But I don't think it really works. Cable news is ripping us apart, dividing the country, making it impossible to function as a society, and making it impossible to know just what is true and what is false. But the good news is they are failing and they know it.
that is why we're building something new, a new mainstream, a healthier one, something more trustworthy, something that we are going to need in one of the most pivotal times in American history. We are building up here for the midterms, for the upcoming presidential election, but we need your help. So if you can help us out by becoming a premium member today at breakingpoints.com, we're trying to change America for the better and the entire world.
So what are you waiting for, guys? Go to breakingpoints.com and sign up and help us build a new mainstream.